So these are my thoughts on machine art after participating in several debates and having discussions with both artists and people from the tech world. So let me share the screen. Okay, so briefly, for those who don't know, 1963, so in general, the discussion on machine art goes back a long time. It probably goes back to the early years of cybernetics. 1963, there was the first public showing of computer art at San Jose State University. The art was made by a secretary and a student. In 1965, in Germany, there was an exhibition of computer graphics after Max Benz organized this group, the Stuttgart group. In 1968, there was the first major exhibition of computer art, the Cybernetic Serendipity exhibition in London. And in 1970, Jack Burnham curated this exhibition in New York, Software, Information Technology, and its New Meaning for Art in New York. This Jack Burnham wrote something interesting in Beyond Modern Sculpture. He saw it coming. He wrote about new art forms coming from the marriage of computers and art. And then there's been over the years, for as long as computer existed, there have been people trying to use machines to make art. Probably Harold Cohen's Aaron was the most famous for a while. He was, I think he was born in Britain, but he was in San Diego. Then a number of projects that you find in the books that talk about the history of interactive art. And then in 2014, somebody at Oxford University realized that you can visualize what a neural network is learning while it is learning it. And you get these surrealistic images. And then somebody at Google called it Inceptionism and started displaying these very intriguing pictures. And these students in Germany came up with the idea of a training neural network to imitate the style of an artist. Google has a program of artists in residence. Mario Klingerman was there in 2016. The most famous artist, who's actually sometimes referred to as the most infamous artist, had an exhibition in San Francisco titled The End of Art as We Know It. And then we've had a whole explosion of GAN artists that use that specific kind of neural network that makes it really easy to generate art. And the owner of this art gallery, I believe in Oxford, created a robot artist, Aida. There was a solo exhibition in 2019 of an AI artist that had been created at the university. And skipping to today, to this year, Jason Allen, who in real life, I believe, runs a gaming company, won a prize, the top award at an art competition, I believe in Colorado, for an art piece that then he revealed that it was made by an AI. So the debate is it art? Is it really art? And the other question is always whom should we credit? Do we credit Jason Allen, or do we credit the AI? Who wins the award? I believe there's 5 questions. Then these are all the things that we end up discussing. The first question is, what is authorship? The second question is, what is art? Then what is the purpose, meaning of art, of this thing that we call art? Then what is machine art? Then we can start answering what is machine art. And at the end, I'll say a few words about what is an artwork, which turns out is probably a different question from the previous 4. So what is authorship? When a machine does something, whom do we credit as the author? Who is the creator? Now, the skeptic says, well, the skeptic says the author of the machine, of machine art, is not the machine, but the engineer who programmed the machine. The counter argument that typically comes from scientists, actually, is, well, are you sure that the human being, the poet, the painter, is the author of what it does? There are actually 2 lines of arguments there. One line of argument is that the artist is just a product of a society. So whatever the artist does is not just the product of the artist's creativity, but of the whole society. The second line of argument is more scientific. Let's take Leopardi, probably Italy's greatest poet. He wrote a famous poem inspired by the moon. Who's the author, Leopardi or the moon? Why? Because when you look at machine art, you say, well, there's some hardware, then there's some software, and then there's the art generated by this software and this machine. But can't you say the same thing about Leopardi? I mean, there is the moon sends rays of light that hit Leopardi's retinas, that send a message to the brain, and the brain eventually feels the motivation to write the poem. So we have a double standard. We consider Leopardi the creator of the poem that was triggered by the rays coming from the moon. But then we say the machine is not the real creator of the file that was generated by software written by the engineer. Now, I feel that this discussion on authorship belongs to a discussion that started in the 20th century avant-garde. You know, we had happening, interactive art, action painting, performance art. And so all that movement, not to mention all the French philosophers who wrote about the author, all of this sabotaged the concept of authorship, of originality, of identity. So machine art, in a sense, is a consequence of this process of demystification of the author. And that's also why sometimes I see it as a close relative of Dadaism. So then let's go to a second question. What is art? That, of course, a very old question and a very long discussion. How do we decide that something is art? Who decides it? Potentially, everything can be art. In fact, the lay public has trouble understanding what's the definition of art. The lay public goes to a museum of contemporary art, and they see many art that they don't appreciate. Sometimes you see visitors laughing at an artwork. On the other hand, the lay public loves a lot of these inceptionist paintings generated by machines. And these are examples of art that you see in museums that frequently make people roll their eyes. Why is Manzoni's Artist's Shit a piece of art? Why is Duchamp's Urinal a piece of art? Why are they in art museums? So who decides this? Can anything be art? Is there any human-made artifact that cannot possibly qualify as art? What does it take to be called art? And is art uniquely human? If somebody asks me, what is the most beautiful thing you've seen in your life? I'm not sure that the first thing that comes out of my mouth is Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel or something made by humans. Maybe I would come up with the Canyon de Chelly and some other wonderful natural landscapes I've seen in my life. I've seen spider webs that were so amazing. I went out of my way not to damage them. And that's a picture of a bird nest I found on the web, or somebody sent me. Now, the skeptic says, well, this is not built by somebody. It's just natural beauty. Well, but isn't any, I mean, are we part of nature? Are we also part of natural beauty when we do something beautiful? So a provocateur like me could argue that art is what the popes, the princes, the art critics, the art galleries, the art museums, the art collectors have decided that it is art. In the old days, in Catholic Europe, the church was deciding what is art. Why? Because the church was the main funder, investor in art projects, and of course it funded what they thought qualified as art. And today, there's this community of art critics, art galleries, art museums, and art collectors that decide what gets bought, what gets displayed. So art is actually not in the eye of the beholder. There's much more behind art. And that leads us to the discussion, what is the meaning, purpose of this thing called art? Art is more than just the object, the specific object that is exhibited in a museum. Otherwise, Duchamp's urinal would not be in a museum. Art interprets the history of human civilization. To understand why something is considered beautiful, you really have to understand a whole system of human society, the history, the values, the processes that were behind the creation of that specific object. You cannot reduce the history of art to a series of likes. Art is a dialogue between the artist and society, even when the artist doesn't want to have any dialogue. In fact, I could claim that all the dialogues between an artist and society, and most of them, happen after the artist dies. The artist is no longer alive, but there's still a dialogue going on between its work and its society. In fact, as a provocateur, I ask you to answer the question, if an artist creates an artwork and never shows it to anyone, is it art? It sounds a simple question, but if you think of it, it's not so obvious. If it never gets displayed, does it still have a meaning? Does it still, see, I see the beauty of an artwork as something that resonates with the viewer. If there is no viewer, if there is no spectator, if there is nobody appreciating it, is it still art? Okay, this is just a silly example. Michelangelo's David. He created it for a cathedral. And as far as I know, it was displayed in that cathedral only once recently. It ended up being in a public square. Then now it's in an art museum. What you see in the public square today is a replica. It's not what Michelangelo had in mind. So what? Over the centuries, there's been a dialogue between that object and society at large. They gave it meaning, and the meaning changes. And that's also part of its meaning, that it changes. So a provocateur like me can claim that an artwork, the picture of the object, is just a decoration for the slight presentation on the importance of that artwork. we have decided that artwork is important. Society decided that. And that's really what that artwork is. What you read today about the artwork that was created centuries ago, that's what the artist did. Even if the artist didn't know he was doing that, but that's what he did. Art is about stories, it's not about objects. Art's function is to tell a story, the story of the human race through the ages. Art is an interpreter. It interprets truths of human society. And in most cases, those are truths that you cannot explain in words. Now, quoting people smarter than me, Adorno wrote, "Distance is the primary condition for getting close to the content of an artwork." And by distance, I understand that you really have to comprehend the whole of human experience. And then that object has a meaning. And Umberto Eco wrote something, I cannot find the exact words, so just paraphrasing, the meaning of an artwork is the sum of all possible interpretations by the readers. So, conclusion after this discussion on what is art and what is the purpose of art. Well, I can argue that creating art is not difficult. Birds, spider webs do it all the time. Making sense of it is difficult. Art can be everywhere, but it's humans who appreciate it. And of course, at this point, yes, we can say machines can produce artworks, but can they critique it? That's the difficult part, in my opinion. Can a machine critique the work of art of another machine, or the work of art of a human artist? Can a machine write a history of art through the ages? So I feel that when we try to analyze the work of art of a machine to decide, can we create in the machine? Is this art? Is the machine intelligent? Because that's at the end of the day what people discuss, right? As the machine become as intelligent as humans? In a sense, we're missing the point. We don't have to look at the specific object created by the machine, but we have to look at the whole process around the concept of art. So what is machine art? What is special about machine art? What makes it different from human art? So I highlighted three things. So first of all, the product of machine art is no longer the product of labor, physical labor, but instead an almost instantaneous generation by means of software of potentially an infinite number of artworks in a few seconds. You can, at some point, you will be able to press a button and the machine will generate unlimited number of pictures, and then you pick one, deciding this is the most beautiful. So machine art removes the process of bodily creation and at the same time multiplies the number of variations, not copies, variations on an artwork. And that's what in the industrial world they call it rapid prototyping. You can generate a lot of different variants of a product and then pick the one that works best for you. So I feel that those are things. So that it's really about what really changes is not the experience of the observer. When on the left, I placed an Inceptionist painting, presumably created at Google. On the right, my favorite painting of all time. From the point of the observer, not much changes. If you hang it in a museum, you frame it, hang it in a museum, the experience is the same. But a lot changes in the experience of the creator of art. And this is not new. Photography, cinema are 2D arts created in the last, now it's almost 2 centuries. It took a while for photographers and filmmakers to realize that the new tool enabled a new form of art. It was just a new form of art. And you couldn't really compare it with the old forms of art. And I have a feeling that we are having the same inertia today. We take machine art and we compare it with traditional machine art. For example, we take a printout from a neural network and we compare it with paintings in a museum. I suspect that machine art, what is special about machine art, will eventually be used to do something special that today we're not doing. It took a while to understand photography could generate pictures that were not paintings. And it took a while for filmmakers to realize that you could make films that were different from theatrical plays. And this goes in the flow of the history of contemporary art. The 20th century introduced alternative notions of visual art, not just painting and sculpture, kinetic art, performance art, conceptual art, even ready-mades. So today, when we look at machine art, we really have to think as a new kind of art. In fact, the whole art-making machine could be viewed as the work of art, not a specific printout, the whole machine, or the software that generates the pixels that then become the printout. The algorithm could be seen as the work of art. Just the fact of using a machine to generate art could be viewed as conceptual art or performance art or a happening. So the same printout can be viewed as a ready-made, a painting, part of a kinetic sculpture, the component of a performance, the element of a conceptual piece, and so on. In the 20th century, we invented new ways to look at art. And really, this whole discussion about machine art goes with, is closely related to the discussion we've been having for a century, more than a century now, about the artwork. This picture, this photograph was taken by Julian Wasser in 1963. This is Marcel Duchamp, definitely a provocateur, playing chess with a 20-year-old naked woman. Now, is the photograph a work of visual art by Julian Wasser? Is it a work of conceptual art by Duchamp? Is it a work of body art by Eve Babitz, the woman? Is it a theatrical work by the curator? Is it just two weirdos killing time on a hot day? And so when we see a machine art, we have similar kind of questions, but that's really part of the history of art that we humans create and interpret. And that's really the difficult part of what we call art. Thank you.